Good morning, everyone. It
Bright
is
and
not
early.
quite as early as we normally go with Blaine, but we let him sleep at an extra hour at 6 a.m. here on the West Coast. And I think we have an East Coaster with us, so she's doing fine. That's why she looks so wonderful and we look so tired. But I have my co-host, Blaine Bartlett, learn.blainebartlett.com. He's my mentor because he has the /LMM. That's the mindset mastermind that he has, and it's changed my life, as you can tell. And we have an extraordinary guest, Blaine. I'm so excited. She is the co-founder and COO of an extraordinary company called LifeBrand. And these are the type of companies that I never thought would ever exist, coming from a traditional sports agent who had to deal with getting in front of things. That was the whole PR side of almost every athlete I ever had, is how are we going to get in front of this? These people, because of artificial intelligence, they can clean up what's in back of you so you don't have to get in front of you, which is super cool. But I'm going to start in a different place, and we'll get to that in a sec. I'm going to welcome Jemma Barbarise, Kelley. She is like I said, COO. But what makes her so extraordinary, she was actually just the first salesperson, I believe, at LifeBrand. And I'm a huge salesperson myself. Have trained thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of them now. And I always say it is the best skills, the best knowledge to have in order to be a great leader. How was it, number one, you picked this company? And then what do you think were the determinations why they picked you to be that first paid employee and led to you being the COO and co-founder?
Sure. So I'm not sure I gave TJ a choice to pick me.
And TJ's the co-founder, just so.
Yes, TJ's the original founder. We had met at my former place of employment. He was a member there, and we became fast friends. I worked at Lifetime Athletic and started training he and his wife. And when he described his idea of LifeBrand to me, I stalked him kindly for about a year for a job, because it was just him, a couple wireframes, and a dream. And it started to become a minimum viable product soon after we had talked. And after about a year of courting him and trying to convince him that I should be the one to build this with him, I kind of forced the issue and just quit my job and said, well, I start next week. Are you ready for me? And I knew he wasn't. I knew he couldn't pay me. I knew that there was no way that there would be growth right away. And he said, okay, are you ready? And we did it. My first week was right before the original shutdown happened for coronavirus. So our fundraising round that would have closed when I had first started disappeared overnight. So not only was there no money to get paid for either of us, but there was no fundraising. And as much as that sucked, we just burned the boats, and we had already committed. We said that we were going to do it. I had no job to go back to. And I think that that's why he and I, were able to grow this together, because we went through such a tumultuous time, built such true trust, had the same passions. And because of that dedication, I mean, it was just a natural fit for him to be the brains of the operation originally, and then add on basically his second half soon after.
I love that story, Jemma, for one reason in particular. I like it for a lot of reasons, particularly from an entrepreneurial perspective. But your whole idea of encouraging failure recovery versus failure avoidance.
Yes.
That idea there. I mean, can you speak a little bit about how that applies? Because I can understand how it works with LifeBrand. Let's go back and clean things up. As David was saying, let's not worry about getting in front of it. Let's go back and handle that. But as you were starting LifeBrand, there was failure recovery right at the beginning. There was nothing that needed to be redone, I suppose I'd say. How did that apply, and how does that inform what you're doing today?
Sure. So my dad and I, from a young age, always talked about making new mistakes. And I knew that when I had joined on with TJ, if this was going to be a mistake, it was definitely going to be a new one, right? So we tried everything because, again, it was at the beginning of the shutdown. We were calling on companies that were worried about their people and worried about where people's next meal were going to come from. And we quickly learned that trying to push a product like ours at the beginning of the pandemic was a mistake. We needed to make sure that we empathized with the employers that were in front of us and struggling and built relationships and trust. And because we started approaching it that way, we had started making new mistakes, right? We weren't just banging our heads against the wall, trying to do the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. And I think that the way that it shapes where we are now is because if something doesn't work, we're malleable enough to admit it and change the direction with which we're moving and make sure that we're always pivoting in a productive way to fit the needs of our company and our people.
And Jemma, just so people have a little bit of familiarity as well, I love the fact that in 2 years since you've started, that you've gone from all of your funding dropping out to I had to stalk TJ and begged TJ to allow me, I don't know what world I live in, to allow me to invest in LifeBrand. And the raise had closed early and was overfunded and oversubscribed. And to get there. And the reason is, by the way, is that especially concerning the corporate understanding of our social media backgrounds. And my main concern was not just the people who had actual things that they did that were stupid, which definitely aligned with me when I was young. I think I'm just blessed there was no phones. And I know TJ says the same thing. But I was just blessed that there couldn't have been any negative social media in my teenage years because there was no phones, which is a blessing. But more importantly to me than just dumb kids, which this does apply to. Oh, by the way, that is every single kid. There's very few that fall between dumb and kid. It's just 100% of them. And they're bound to post something. But the bigger value of LifeBrand is that things are taken out of context.
Correct.
In social media. And number two, beyond being taken out of social context, the companies are judged not just by the Dave Meltzer executive. They're judged by the lowest player on your team. They always say you're only as good as your worst player in sports. Well, this is a problem that LifeBrand addresses, and you've been able to land huge clients, including, I think, recently St. Joe's University, St. Joseph's University, and Devon Prep, beyond the big corporations you already had. How has that changed even in the last 2 years, the awareness and importance of executive cleaning in the backside?
Sure. So I think, as you said, the most important piece of cleaning social media is understanding why you have to clean it, right? It's the context. If you and I are texting, Dave, and I'm quite short in that message and I say, okay, very quickly, you're going to read it in your reality. And maybe you think I'm upset with you, right? Because perception is reality. You're reading it with how you're feeling in that moment.
Hey, Jemma, I got to tell you this story. Sorry.
Sure.
This show's boring unless I interrupt you. So
That's okay.
This is true. This is true. Well, it's because of me. So in the original text, the flip phone text where you had to hit the button 3 times,
Yes.
right? So I had 150 developers in India, and my lead developer, we were doing a commercial for a very famous artist. She had a music video, and it was reggae. And they had, because of cultural differences, made everybody a certain color, and it wasn't black.
Sure.
In a reggae thing, because they had no cultural context. So I had the cap lock on, and I texted the head of my production. He didn't talk to me for a month and almost quit because I didn't know back then that if you type in capitals, you're yelling.
Yes.
Because it was so early on. So I literally screwed up an entire project and almost lost my most valuable player because of this out of context texting.
Oh
It's
my
just the original
God.
example.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it was Mariah Carey. It was a Mariah Carey video. Anyway, I digress. So
Okay.
everything's taken out of context. I'll let you reset your mind, but that reminded me
It's
of a
okay.
place.
So if we're texting, right, and you take what I'm saying out of context, technically it's my fault, right? Because I typed it that way, but it's no one's fault because I'm meaning it one way, you're meaning it another, and you can't understand the intentionality that I'm putting behind the text. You're reading it in your reality, right? So to go back to your original question of why it is so important for this executive cleaning, it's because just like your messages, there's a way that certain executives might speak and they don't truly understand the way that it comes off to their peers or the power with which their words are followed. Even if, oh, I'm so sorry, I'm at home, you can hear my dogs.
Oh, we know you bring those dogs everywhere. We were prepared.
So it's hard because the power that sits behind their name and their reputation is something that maybe they're not understanding, even if they're saying something innocuous, right? So it's important for them. But what's more important is their employees. Just like you said, it's what everybody, the whole sample is posting online. My grandmother used to always say, show me who your friends are and I will show you who you are. And I think that fits when you're talking about the ecosystem of a company. Show me who all of your employees are and what they're posting online and how they feel. And I'll show you how healthy your ecosystem is. And that's why Life Brand is so important for businesses overall.
And I have another one for you. Show me your friends.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll show you your future.
That is amazing. I'm going to steal that one.
Yeah. If you have daughters, go ahead, use it.
I'm definitely.
One of the, with the clients that I work with, most of them are executives, C-suite, and founders in organizations. One of the things that I landed on years ago is a notion that every one of us lives on the same planet. There's 7 billion of us that live on this planet. But unfortunately, every one of us lives in our own world.
Yes.
And this is where the contextual misunderstandings come into play because I'm filtering through my world experience, and you're an alien to me. And I'm expecting that you're going to speak my language and you're going to reference things in the way that I'm familiar with. When you're cleaning something up, it's not just a matter of letting it go away. It's a matter of resetting the contextual expectations. How do you actually manage that? Because that's a fairly uphill chunk of change, I would imagine.
Sure. So are you asking how it truly cleans the social media posts? So basically, if I were to log in right now and connect all of my social media pages, the AI would scrub them back from inception, which is very important, right? Because if you go and do this on your own, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, they're in the market of the human attention span. They don't want to show you everything that people haven't interacted with, right? But we show you everything from start to finish the moment you joined the pages and highlight the phrases or the words that might be problematic. And I say might because, again, everyone assigns their own intentionality to what they're saying, and what might be appropriate for me to say might be inappropriate for someone else to say, right? So we highlight those phrases, show you what buckets of inappropriate topics they might fall into, and then the user makes the decision as to whether or not they want to delete, edit, or keep the post. And it's important that the user is part of this process, right? Because we don't want to censor anybody. We want everyone to be educated and understand the words that their peers are seeing and the way that their peers might be interpreting it, right? Even if it wasn't meant that way. And then they can make the decision as to what their page should look like moving forward. They can curate their own posts and their digital footprint and move forward, putting their best first impression forward online, because if we're honest, right, we're all Googling each other before we get on these virtual meetings or before we go on dates. And for someone else to read something that might not have the best intention behind it and maybe make me look a little bit different than I am in person is.
And, lastly, before we let you go, the obvious application of Life Brand that came to mind, at least for me, having 3 daughters, 22, 20, and 18, is that the dumb kid problem. And, we have futures. We talked about show me your friends. I'll show you your future. Show me your social media. I'll show you your future. And, as I have my youngest daughter applying to colleges, there's no doubt why Life Brand was such value because of innocent, stupid childhood behavior that could be seen right? Because what we're dealing with is, I think Blaine suggested quite eloquently, right? We give meaning to everything we see. Why give them a chance to give it the wrong meaning? Like
Absolutely.
me and my cap letters. And so beyond the executive side of it, which is less obvious, you know, how important is it today for the dumb kid problem?
Oh my God, it's imperative, right? I would never let my 15-year-old self make decisions for me at almost 30. Could you imagine my 15-year-old self sitting on this show talking to you guys? You would be having a very different conversation with Tomboy Jemma with her Chuck Taylors on and like she breaking.
I had enough problems at 25 to 35 making decisions for myself. So I can't even think about 15-year-old Dave.
Exactly. So I think it's important that everyone remembers that you were a kid once. And yes, you're going to screw up as an adult on social media, but why let your childlike self be the problem and be the reason that you either don't get the promotion, don't get the date, don't make the friends, or don't be taken seriously online? It's silly to let your teenage self get in the way of your adult self.
And just real quick, as you know, we're waiting for the next guest. We talk specifically, do colleges look at that? Do jobs look at that? You know, for these younger people, what's the significance for them?
Sure. So Career Builder and SHRM have both said that they look at social media either when you're applying to jobs, right, or when you are in the process of applying to colleges. 97% of employers are looking, whether they admit it or not. So it's really, really important that people understand what they're putting forth online, how they're representing themselves. And even if you have private profiles, it doesn't mean it can't be found. So why wouldn't you want to be a part of that conversation and make sure that you're in charge of the narrative for yourself, right? All employers or hiring managers are having some form of snooping process. And rather than snooping, why not just be proactive and make sure that your mistakes can't come back to haunt you? I'd rather make sure that my digital footprint represents my true values. And again, not my values at 15 when my brain was scrambled eggs.
Yeah. I'll tell you this. I did a background check on Blaine before I let him co-host with me. And
I hope so.
I think the man floats because he actually had a halo that I could possibly see in most of the photos with all of the good things that he does. And I think the same thing's true now with the mature TJ that I know.
There's my halo.
Yeah, there you go. That's what I was looking at. Angels on earth, because they epitomize people that do good and do well. They are kind to their future self. And Jemma, I'm so sorry that you have to do all the work and I didn't get to meet you in person in studio, but I'm going to demand, as a serious investor of Life Brand, that I get to see you in person next time, and we'll make TJ do all the work. Does that sound fair?
That sounds good. Thank you, Dave.
All righty. Well, everybody, executives, kids, parents, please, not just because I'm a worthy investor, but please, for your own sakes, be kind to your future self and check out Lifebrand, lifebrand.life. You can go ahead and take care and clean your past to get ahead in the future. She's amazing. You fit right in with an amazing company. Thank you for joining us. We'll have you back, I am sure. The incredible Jemma Barbarise, Kelley, thank you.
Bye, guys. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Jemma. Great meeting you.
All right, from one Wonder Woman to the next Wonder Woman, we're just a couple days short of Women's Day, because who looks this good in the morning? Are you
really? What's up with this?
Look at you and I. We're like barely. I had to throw on a hat, and then I see like the Vogue model here. Oh my goodness! I just am so excited because this is not only an extraordinary executive, entrepreneur, speaker, author, coach. One of the 40 under 40. She's a huge woman of influence, and we are honored to have my friend. Now, I'm going to do this just for her because I've been practicing. She knows I do more videos and interviews than probably anyone on earth. I think quantifiably, I have more of these than anyone every single day, 7 days a week. So names are difficult at times for me, especially when the letters don't look like the way you pronounce it, which is true about my friend. And her name is Nasserdeen, and Lena Nasserdeen. And I practice that. CEO and founder of Rise Up For You. Talk about living and walking in your space. Rise up for you. Don't you want to rise up looking like her? Oh my goodness, she's so much energy. Let's talk about your book, Rise Up for You, closing the gap between you and your potential. Obviously, something that you and I deal with all the time is this idea of potential. That potential is determinative upon, different things. What are the things that you think your potential is determinative upon so that we can rise up and know where that gap exists? Because I think some people, when I was young, for example, I thought my potential playing football was much higher than it was. So I prioritized playing football over some other skills and potentials that I had because I didn't understand what determined my potential. And someone like you that's an expert in rising up to our potential for ourselves, what are some of those components or criteria that people should look at?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I just want to preface with the fact that there's a rooster next door. So that's why I've been
this is Animal Farm. This is Animal Farm. We had a dog, a rooster.
We got
Erik.
We got horses.
Erik will have a cow. We'll be on it. Don't even.
Yeah,
animals allowed. This is like the Ritz-Carlton here, but we literally animals are allowed. You just walk your pig through the lobby. It's fine.
So, it's interesting because I've been in a number of industries. I started in the performing industry as a performer. Then I became an executive. I was a professor at a college, and in every single industry. And today I run my own business. And every industry I saw that same challenge of people really struggling to get to that next step in their potential. And there's three things that I saw across the board that really determined closing that gap and the ability to close the gap. And the first one is just growth mindset. So it's the ability and the curiosity and the need to want to change, right? To want to seek something beyond themselves where they already are in life. Growth mindset, understanding that your intelligence is not fixed, that in fact you can learn more, you can grow more, and your potential is really up to you and your ability to keep pushing yourself. The second one is, you nailed it, David, is accurate self-assessment, because we all have blind spots. So we don't know what we don't know. And I always say that you know yourself the best because you're in your own skin. And at the same time, I can't see the backside of me unless I have a mirror. Now think of that mirror as like your personal board of directors or a coach or a mentor or people that are in your life that love you, that can say, I don't know if you can see, but on your back, you have this black slash that's going across, right? So being able to see some of your weaknesses and understanding those blind spots so that you can close them. And then the final one, which is by far my favorite topic to talk about, is self-confidence. So being able to feel enough, whether or not you are 100% in a competency or a category, still taking action, even with the potential of failure. When I built my business, I had $100, didn't have a degree in business. My degree's in executive leadership. I was a performer in education. I had no idea how to do anything with business. And I went online and I said, how do I build a business? And I just started learning. And I think that having that confidence in yourself and your belief in yourself is really a game changer when it comes to your potential.
Lena, I love this. And, we've had conversations before. It's great to see you again.
Thank you.
The idea of sustainable growth, both in companies and for individuals. I work around that area a lot. And one of the ways that I've come to define sustainable success is it's about developing the capacity to continuously start over. Mm-hmm. And can you speak a little bit about how you work with your clients? Because in my experience, starting over is not something that particularly adults will take to. As a matter of fact, they will tend to shy away from it because nobody likes to, and I say nobody, most people don't like the experience of being a beginner again. So developing the capacity to continuously start over, that's how sustainable success actually gets generated. And you've got a platform, but how do you work with the mindset to make that bite palatable?
Yeah, and it's really resilience, and when I say resilience, oftentimes we think of resilience of just getting back up. And I say, no, resilience is bouncing up and bouncing forward. Because a lot of people are resilient in the sense that they get back up, right? They've survived, they've made it, but they let that experience or their past intelligence or competencies or whatever it is, just keep them there. They get crippled and they get comfortable and they do the same thing over and over again. But like you said, that sustainability is now, okay, how do I continue to move forward? I got back up. Now, how do I move forward? And it's really understanding that life has different chapters. Right? The same person that I am today is not the same person that I even was a year ago, right? Completely different individual. So understanding and allowing that space for growth. And I think self-compassion is a big part of it, because as individuals, we want everything to be perfect, and we forget that we're human beings. And by nature, humanity, we're imperfect, and we need to be able to grow and change and mold according to our environment and what's around us. Sometimes we don't allow ourselves to do that, and we want to stay stuck in that same human being that we've been the last 10, 15 years. So that self-compassion is also going to really help us mold who we are so that we can move forward. And I'm a really big fan of getting to the muscle of the individual. So, right, and I'm going to get a little bit like academic in the sense that, you know, we have the neocortex where we learn stuff, right? Anybody can learn. Anybody can just take information. What we really want for sustainability and success is to be able to implement in live experience in the moment. And that's where we have to transfer that information in the back to that limbic system, where we can exercise the tools and not just learn them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because learning doesn't take place until you've integrated.
Correct.
And otherwise it's just knowledge that isn't being applied.
It's just there. Exactly.
Yeah.
Unactivated.
And, you know, you work with tons of companies and individuals at the highest level, working through educating them, inspiring, as you suggested, in this experience component of allowing them to understand how to do that. But one of the core principles that I see you and your clients, you know, working on constantly and doing such a wonderful job with is the idea of connecting. And you are a master at understanding what that means. So many people will call themselves a connector, and it kind of, you know, for me, creates interference. But in terms of how you utilize it as a core principle, how you empower people to understand what that means beyond educate, inspire, and experience, you teach them to connect.
Yeah. And David, I think you would relate with me when I say that, you know, I've been taught at a very young age that it's not about you. And that's really,
I didn't listen to that, but I heard that once in a while.
and that's
my
really,
wife still tells me this.
repetition, David.
Yes. And that's how I approach my relationships, is always just remembering it's not about you. It's not about you. You know, so when we're sitting with clients and we're sitting with just people that we're connecting with, it's, what does this person need in the moment, and how do I take myself out of it, right? Which is my ego in the moment, because oftentimes, especially in the corporate space, you can let your ego get in the way of empathy, get in the way of understanding, get in the way of really seeing the full picture of what's in front of you. And I learned that at a very, very young age when I was performing. The director always used to say, it's not about you, it's about the audience. And that has always stuck in my head, is that when you come from a place of service and you come from a real place of, who's this person in front of me? What are the emotions that they're feeling? What are the challenges that they're going through? Take myself out of the picture. What does this individual need? Then, naturally, you're going to build that connection, because that person can feel that you care about them, and you're not coming in with an intention or ulterior motive. I mean, I was even on the phone with a potential client a couple of days ago, and he was expressing the need that he wanted, and we didn't fit that need. And I just said, listen, save your money. Save your money. I could say, yeah, you know what? We'll take the money. We'll figure it out. We'll make it happen. But the reality is that understanding what he really needed, and we weren't the best fit for that, and sharing with him some other resource outside of us that could be a great fit for him, that would help elevate him. And I think always just following that integrity of looking at that individual, that company, that client, figuring out what do they need, and always allowing that to happen.
You know, the idea of business being the purpose of being business being to uplift the experience or the possibility of thriving.
Yeah.
If business is uplifting the possibility of thriving, they're going to be successful, and that's what you're speaking to here. Yeah, leaders, and I'm going to, David's heard me talk about this a lot. Everybody's a leader, and people go, well, wait a minute, I don't have the title. Well, the title has nothing to do with it. Everybody's a leader because everybody's always causing movement in some way, shape, or form. The question is more about, am I causing the kind of movement that gets me the result that I want? And what you're speaking to, Neda, is being aware of the consequence of the movement that I'm generating just by my presence. the way that I'm actually showing up before I open my bloody mouth. Yeah. What kind of movement am I generating out there that I'm going to, I may have to go back and clean it up. But so elegance. So taking a client or a potential client going, not the best fit. That's an elegant move because there's nothing that you have to clean up afterwards. And they go away feeling pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah. And you're absolutely right. Like presence is everything, and title has nothing to do with it. Pay has nothing to do with it. We work with people every day that say, I want to be a leader. And I said, well, you're leading right now. You just don't know it, right? Or you're not owning it, right? The title has nothing to do with it. But I always say, be seen, be heard, be relevant. Like that's my thing right now that I've been hanging on to because it's so important, especially today in today's modern world with technology, is that you are always influencing people, even when you go to the grocery store. So I really promote and advocate for just being a leader in life. It's not just fixated to the workplace or to your business, but you go into the grocery store and you ask, the cashier how you do and how you feeling today, having that conversation. You're always making an impact or taking away, right? In a not so great way. And I think that sometimes as people, we forget that, right? We forget, you mentioned today that, it's 6 a.m. where we are and I'm on the camera ready to go, but I'm very aware that, hey, I'm either going to add to this conversation and the people that are listening and tuning in are going to take from it, or I'm going to take away from the conversation by, hey, it's 6 o'clock in the morning here. So everybody has that choice to wake up and lead in their life period. And when you make that choice, you'll see the impact in the corporate space. Every career I've ever had, I've grown in the company within 3 to 4 months. When I became an executive, I was only at that company for 2 months. And I was brand new. I was only 27 years old when I became an executive. But it's because I didn't even care about the title. I just showed up, put my best foot forward. I contributed. I picked the trash off the floor when I walked by because there's trash on the floor. Let's pick it up. And I just recognize that just leading in your life is going to take you a really long and far way.
I got fired 2 times in one company and never knew about it. I just kept showing up and I ended up leading a major division of the company.
Yeah.
There's the Seinfeld. There's the George Costanza and Blaine right there. He's if you guys remember Seinfeld with George Costanza, and Steinbrenner fired him and he just stayed. That's awesome. Sometimes you just got to show up. Everybody's a leader, but remember, make money your follower. Don't allow money to lead you as well.
Yeah.
Lena, thank you so much. Lena Nasserdeen. She is the CEO and founder of Rise Up For You, riseupforyou.com. Please reach out to her. She's an extraordinary coach, mentor, and teacher, speaker, author. She is a woman of all trades, and we are honored to have you. I'm sorry I had you on 2 days too late. We had her for Women's Day to honor everyone. She's a superstar. If you didn't notice, come join us again. You can also check her out on her TV show. She will be starring there as well for season 2 of Office Hours. Thank you so much.
She and I both are on the various episodes.
Yes.
Hey.
Thank you, David. Thank you, Blaine. I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much, everybody.
Keep up the great work. We love you. Thank you. She's amazing. All right. I feel sorry for Erik because these women, this would be like me showing up. Big E, we got you. Big shoes to fill. Those women were incredible. Erik Huberman, he is the founder and CEO of Hawke Media. Hawke Method is what he's created. Hawkemethod.com. And let's just start right with the Hawke Method, right? We were talking about this idea of, soaring our lives. What is the Hawke Method? We'll start there and we'll let Blaine hit it out of the park. Show that again. Show it again. I'm a branding guy.
There you go.
The big Hawke himself. There you go.
Method.
No, it's been exciting. I put the book together after 2.5 years, but it's basically our methodology. We've grown over 3,700 brands at this point at Hawke Media. We're a marketing agency for those that don't know, but we work a little differently and worked as an outsourced CMO and marketing team to a bunch of different brands, and just saw consistency around how to execute marketing and things that work and strategies that work, and wanted to distill it down into a way that it would be easy for everyone to understand marketing, because I found that it's very opaque. It's very hard to understand. And everybody that's building a business, most people that work in a business have to interface with marketing in some way. And I wanted to make it easy to understand how this should work. And so we came up with the 3 principles of marketing. This is years ago that we came up with all this. and started using it actually in our business. But then again, about 2.5 years ago, decided to put it into a book to make it, to proliferate it, to get it out there.
That's great. The idea of growth is interesting here. And, Hawke Media was the fastest growing, or is the fastest growing media company, media consultancy. How do you this question always comes up for me. How have you managed, Erik, the growth so that it didn't get in front of you too fast?
Yeah, I'd say we teetered right before that constantly. I think that would be the best description of our business. It's a good point, because if you haven't been in that situation in a business, it's hard to fathom, like, well, don't you want to grow as fast as you can? And I technically do, but can is really the key word there, because
or should,
touche. It really gets to a point where growth is expensive, first off. So you end up spending a lot of money on things that you don't necessarily make the money back right away. Let's say you decide you have 10 people in your sales team and go, okay, we're ready to grow. Let's make it 100 people. Well, those 90 new people all cost salaries. They're not going to be selling anytime soon. Like, it takes the time for everyone to ramp up. All these things take time. So you kind of have to balance, we want to grow really fast, with what can you do responsibly with the cash flow that you have, or investing. A lot of people raise money to grow faster. That's one of the main reasons for venture capital out there. And that's number one. Number two, small problems when you're small become big problems when you're big. So if you don't actually shore up your business as you're growing, and I know you guys have seen this too, when you get bigger and you haven't fixed certain problems, they get way harder to fix, way more expensive, and the problems that they cause get way more expensive. So it's important how we've kind of done it. We talk about, we have kind of a staircase growth trajectory instead of a curve, where it's been like flat, figuring everything out, getting things shored up, and then boom, we spike up, and then we flatten out again, because we got to figure out that phase of the business. And I'd say for most entrepreneurs, it's frustrating, because you kind of, like, you're driven to grow, you want to keep going, and a lot of guys don't want to stop and fix everything. But I literally just had this conversation with another business owner yesterday that had been told by his board to stop growing so he can shore everything up. And that's kind of what I've seen most businesses have to do over and over and over again throughout their growth.
That's a great analogy, or a great, noticing, in this has to, when I'm hiking, and I live not too far from the Cascade Mountains here in Washington State. Mm-hmm. And when I'm on a particularly difficult hike, that plateauing is the only thing that allows me to get to the summit. Because if I just tried to make it in one march, I'd drop dead. So plateau. I mean, rather than I love that. Rather than a curve that you're attending to, build these plateau steps in there, because you can't consolidate you can't move until you've consolidated.
Well, and in the business case, it gives you a foundation from that base.
Yeah.
So at that plateau, it's very, very, very rare, unless you really mess something up, that you're going to drop below that plateau. Like, once you plateau, you build a system around it to make
Put
that.
The floor in.
Yeah, exactly. Then you can take risks above that and just fall right back down to that if you need to, versus going all the way back down.
Yep. Yeah, I use the same philosophy each day to plateau and grow, not to live the myth of Sisyphus by pushing that boulder to the top of the hill, just have it roll down to the bottom the next day. The same thing holds true, because there's a learning stage. Then, as you said, there's that execution stage. Then there's an equity stage. And that equity stage is not just the recapitalization, it's the re-engineering and the relearning that takes place, so that you can have a new learning stage that allows you then to have a new execution stage. Now, one of the other things that's aligned with my 35 years of experience in marketing and building brands. Now, I've spent majority of my time early in my career building my own brands, whether it be in the middleware space or the hardware space with Samsung, but then in the individual brand space, traditional, running Lee Steinberg and Sports One Marketing with Warren Moon. Mm-hmm. But we would always talk about the three things in different verbiage or vernacular. That one, people need to know you, and you call that awareness. And that's a much more difficult feat today than when you're representing, a world championship boxer or a quarterback of the Super Bowl champions. It's easy to utilize that. It's much more difficult for brands. But you have then, after we raise awareness, we have to serve well, is what we would say. So provide value, but then serve well. You raise awareness by providing value. You serve well. You call that nurturing.
Yep.
But the one thing that people don't think about, whether they're pitching or in branding or marketing, is credibility. And you call that trust. So awareness, nurturing, and trust. Credibility is the most important of the components, because if you are 100% credible, everybody will do what you say. Now, we're trying, that's our potential, as you and I both know. But what most people don't consider is, as much as credibility is so important and the most viable, that it doesn't work without the other two. And these three are so important. How important is today? I've worked, to understand it today. You've worked with over, 3,000 brands. I'm a newbie in 5 years in this, and I'm not nearly at 3,000 brands. I'm just working on one mostly. But I'm wondering how you've seen, since you have a greater expertise in this realm than I do, how you've seen all three of these: awareness, nurturing, and trust, working together for e-commerce brands and today's brands more than, Steve Young.
I mean, it can work either way. As you mentioned, Steve Young, a lot of these athletes got to where they are because of the sports they play and the attention that they get that way. So the awareness is inherent, and word of mouth is a form of awareness. So is being broadcast on TV or on the radio or on
office hours
show. Exactly. These are all pieces of awareness, and what we're trying to articulate, because we just saw this. This comes from seeing what companies are doing wrong over and over and over again. I mean, the way we work is, our first step with every company is to dive in and do an audit, see what they're doing right, what they're doing wrong. And this became the framework for that audit, where it's like, let's go look and see, oh, look, they're doing a ton for awareness. They're doing Facebook ads and Google ads, and they're doing TV, and they're actually getting good word of mouth, but you're not doing anything after that. So the biggest missing point we see with companies that aren't running this is the idea of a purchase cycle or consideration period being taken into account. So a purchase cycle is that period between when someone becomes aware that you exist and when they actually buy. And that's usually somewhere between 3 weeks and 3 months. So, and I can get more into details of that, but the reason that's important is because if you're running advertising today and you're not measuring it over the next 3 weeks to 3 months, you're not measuring your marketing right. And so you're going to look at it 3 days from now and go, okay, so we spent $10,000. Why haven't we made 10,000? This isn't profitable. Shut down all our marketing. And we see it over and over and over again. Nurturing is what you do during that consideration period to make sure that they actually convert to a buyer, and measuring it right and doing everything right there. And then trust, as you said, which absolutely is synonymous with credibility. Early on, that comes from third-party validation, whether it's press, testimonials, reviews, referrals, influencer marketing, all these things that someone else is credible is giving you credibility. And then once you get through that period and you start to build more of a brand for yourself, then it just becomes what you're consistent with, becomes your brand, becomes your credibility. So if you're known, so to speak, that the biggest brands in the world, they're easy to point to and talk about this: McDonald's, Coca-Cola, Red Bull, whatever, Nike, you know what you're going to get. Now, good and bad brands stick around. Just keep that in mind, because, and I'm saying within one brand, like McDonald's is going to have a really hard time ever not being the, obesity epidemic causer of the United States. Like, that is a brand they've taken on, along with consistency, and what a Big Mac tastes like everywhere in the world and that kind of thing. So they're still doing fine because people like consistency. They like to be able to trust what they're getting. And so time actually is a key to success with brands, because just over time, as long as you are consistent with delivery, if a Big Mac tasted different every single time, McDonald's would not be where they are.
Right. Yeah. That's, there's, that's what I'm looking for here. Just given what's going on in the world today, the disruption that is going to be and is beginning to occur economically. What are some of the, and I guess I'd posit it this way, from a brand management perspective, what should some of these brands that are caught right in the middle of some of this stuff right now be paying some attention to?
I'd say if I learned anything from COVID, it's don't pay attention to it in a weird way. And let me articulate why I say that. Most people that were watching the news in the beginning of COVID made irrational and emotional decisions about their business based on what they were seeing in the media, versus looking at their numbers and their data and having it speak to them as to what that meant. We had 25% of our clients just completely shut down marketing overnight when COVID got announced. no one had had any business disruption yet. I shouldn't say no one. We had a few gym chains and things like that were actually disrupted, some hospitality, but most of the clients that I'm talking to, or we have a lot of e-commerce. We had an online furniture company turn off their marketing in March of 2020, and April of 2020, we have a lot of furniture companies, was probably the best month for furniture in the history of mankind, like actually. And so they missed it because they turned off all their marketing and they caused themselves pain. So I'm going to say one thing as a business owner is marketing has shifted. So there's a cliche that you talk about that the first thing to go in a recession is marketing. And that was 100% true up until COVID, because what's happened now is so many people have gone digital. 30% of consumer purchasing is digital, that there's no foot traffic. So on digital, so your marketing becomes your foot traffic. And so cutting it all off because you're scared of what's coming is just a self-fulfilling prophecy. You're cutting off your own oxygen. We know how this goes. And so we saw that happen. But again, the bigger indicator that I saw was people panicking because they're watching too much news. We don't know yet if Ukraine and Russia, as an example, is going to affect the economy significantly in the US. Does it affect stock prices because people are panic selling? Totally. But in terms of actual Main Street economic results, we don't know how inflation is going to affect us. We don't know how this. And so you don't need to get so far ahead of it. Do you want to maybe keep an eye on it? Yes. But do you want to watch your daily data to see how your business is being affected and make sure that you, again, it can become a self-fulfilling prophecy for your business. You want to pull back on everything and hold tight. We know what that's going to turn into. You're going to have a recession, an individual recession regardless. But if you keep with it, you watch the numbers, and keep on top of it, be ready to switch on a dime, which if you're a small or medium business, you should be able to, then just wait and see what happens. And that's stressful for a business owner. I'm one of them. I get it. Like, it sucks to have to just anticipate and wait, but it's the job. And like, if you try to get ahead of it, that's usually where I see, good or bad. The other side of this, and when people think the economy is just going to keep going up and they're spending like a drunk sailor, like that's also a very bad thing. Like, you just have to be responsible and watch your numbers on an ongoing basis.
No doubt. The interval between cause and effect is time. And sometimes we attach our emotions to the wrong aspect of that interval of time. So we have to make sure that we do that. Check out the Hawke method, the 3 principles of marketing that made over 3,000 brands soar. It is on Amazon, hawkemethod.com. That's Hawke with an E. And show that book one more time, Erik. We love having you on. Your wisdom and
there you go.
Nothing like situational knowledge. Nothing like situational knowledge and dummy text to help people. And Erik shares all of that with us, and we appreciate it. Certainly, it creates a quantitative value that everyone will get out of this book. Erik Huberman, thank you so much for joining me here with Blaine Bartlett on Office Hours. Take care.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks, Erik.
See you soon. Great job, Erik. 3 for 3 once again, even though I had a frog in my throat, but it seems like, well, we have a dog, a rooster, a hawk, and now a frog.
No, frog.
So it's like I said, Animal Farm. If anyone hasn't read that book, maybe you should take a suggestion from the great scholars. Learn.blainebartlett.com/LMM. What do you got for a takeaway for the day?
I'm going to just grab something that our first guest said. Jemma talked about, and I wrote this down because I thought it was so intriguing. Make new mistakes. Make new mistakes. And when Nada was talking, I mean, she also spoke about that in terms of just kind of how you grow. Resilience. That whole idea of resiliency. Don't just get back up and move forward. You're going to make mistakes. And if you're making new mistakes, you'll be learning. And honestly, I think that's one of the things that Erik was talking about too. As a brand, I've got to get out there and just kind of keep myself moving. Awareness, nurture, and trust. I'm going to stub my toe in each one of those domains at some point in time. But the key here is to make new mistakes. If I'm not making new mistakes, I'm not moving. I'm just kind of in one place over and over and over again. That doesn't work.
Yeah, and I that resonated with me. I got that frog again. Excuse me for a sec. The other thing that ties into making new mistakes was just confidence. One of the things that I see, especially in the ladies, is that if you focused in on fear, like the furniture company that Erik described, you're going to get exactly what you order. And when you're looking to see how your skills and knowledge and desire are aligned with what's doing well, what you want, what's stable, or what is going to be doing well, and utilize that in an aligned, synergistic way, you're going to benefit greatly, as Jemma, Nada, and Erik all have, and help others do as well. It's time to rise up here with office hours. Thank you so much. Blaine Bartlett, learn.blainebartlett.com/LMM. I'll see you soon, brother.
You bet, buddy. You take care. Have a good one.
You got it. All right, everyone. We're rocking and rolling. Check out tomorrow. We have a 2-minute drill on Bloomberg and Apple TV. We are filming also office hours for Apple TV and Bloomberg as well. We have a lot of things going on. Just reach out to me, david@dmeltzer.com. You can request whatever you want, books, guides, exercises, training tomorrow as well. The levels of intention, 5 levels of intention that are critical in manifesting everything you desire to utilize cause and effect to your benefit. Remember, most importantly, be more interested than interesting. Be kind to your future self and do good deeds. We'll see you later. Thanks.